Hello everyone and welcome back to what I think it's going to be a very interesting video besides the reviews. I'm actually going to talk about something I've been thinking of doing, and yesterday, Friday, uh, sort of brought up again, and I will talk about this at the end of this video because it's actually related to one of the books that came out this week. So of course, besides my little thin here haul of books from this week, I also got Destination Numbers One, which is free and was put directly into the bags for the book. So I was wondering how my shop was going to handle that the dynamic of the Destination Zero, if it was going to be with the rest of the books, or they were going to give them only to people who have a pull list, because sometimes they do things like that. I don't have a pull list at the time being. Um, I let it expire because uh, at this point I really can't. I'm not really sure if I can commit to getting a number of books on a regular basis. So right now I'm kind of on a much more flexible budget. So there's some books I'm going to be picking up every month, but I'm actually sort of not get certain books depending on how many books I want to try. They're like new books I want to try, or if there are books I usually pick up, uh, there are more than I can handle. So some I would just leave and pick up at a later time. So yeah, at some point I'm going to reactivate my poll. But no, they were giving everyone um, the magazine with their purchase. Uh, so I was actually hoping that my shop would finally get copies of Saga, but as I explained in my last two videos, that when I went to the shop on New Comic Book Day, there was not a single copy of Saga. Um, I actually went the following day to see if they didn't get all their books out. And actually, I haven't once I mentioned that with Paper Girls, where no issue showed up on the day the books went on sale, but the following day they did. It happened with the last issue, like about a week later. I found the copies. I hope it would have happened this week, but no. And I actually, the only book that I picked up from Image, which is Paper Girls issue 21, was there, but surprisingly enough there were only very few copies, and I went on the very day the books went on sale. Like I was like probably one of the first people there. Maybe not exactly, but I did go a little bit later. Only a few issues. Usually, you find this book like stacked up, various copies. They had a ton of copies of Spawn, but not a lot of not a lot of copies. I mean, it's surprising. Either they're not ordering as many copies, people aren't buying it anymore as much as they used to. I don't know, but I found that very odd. Um, and it usually happens with like smaller publishers where you only get a few issues of a title, few copies of a title. So, anyways, I'm gonna start talking about Paper Cross number 21, which is my first issue in a while. I missed the entire last arc. I only got like the first issue 16, but as I mentioned in my last video, in various videos actually, they only have issues 18 through 20. They don't have issue 17, so I'm not even sure if I should pick up those 3 issues or buy the trade. I was thinking buying the trade and getting the whole story. So anyways, I decided to pick up the next arc. It took me a little bit of a while to readjust myself to to the reading, to know where, because it starts off with a dream sequence with Mac, right? And then we go to the current situation. So that kind of confused me a bit because I missed the last arc and issue 20. So if this were your first issue of this title, it'd be very confusing. For someone who's been reading the book since the beginning, not so much. I got caught up with what was happening. They're finally in the future, where the far future, where pretty much the characters that showed up in the first arc live. So it's sort of coming back to that thread that was started way back in issue 1, that had been somewhat ignored in the past few arcs where they were just jumping through time. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, after sort of saying, okay, this is what happened, this is where they ended up at the end of the last arc. I was able to enjoy the story. Of course, the art is by Cliff Chang is great. The whole Mac is dying of will die from leukemia sort of keeps playing on. So yeah, quite enjoyable at the end. When they find like this tree in the library, that's sort of like the tree of knowledge, and Mac asks if there is a cure to leukemia in this time, and the answer is positive. So where does it end up? It was yeah, sort of it ends in that note where she asks about leukemia. Well, so yeah, I'm trying to make this quick because the next part is gonna be kind of long. Anyways, another nice read. So I haven't made up my mind if I'm gonna pick up the individual issues and then search for issue 17 or get the trade. Anyways, next up, Justice League number 1. So yes, I decided to try this title. This is the first Justice League book I bought in quite a while. Actually, I actually tried Justice League of America, the last series, but that book actually kind of sold really fast at my shop. I think I got like maybe the 0 issue and the first one, and then I never really followed up on the rest of it because I could never find copies of it from the earlier issues. So yeah, I sort of kind of stayed away from the Justice League books since Rebirth. So this is like the new era coming out of Dark Knight's Metal, No Justice. It really starts off with a lot of action. You're sort of like in the middle of a story. You see the League now a much more expanded League, fighting these sort of Neanderthals, like these tribes with very specific like magic and water, and I don't know, just this sort of modified Neanderthals that were created by Vandal Savage. At the same time, we are see this thing here, this sort of thing flying through space, which is referred to as the totality. So they don't know if it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing. It seems to be connected to the source wall. It seems Vandal Savage knows about it and had some plans with it. Luther sort of finds out, forms his own Legion of Doom, attacks Savage, and seems to finally have killed him. Meanwhile, the Justice League, we have like this sort of discussion between the Justice League in this sort of mental meeting room created by John Jones, who is now the chairman of the league. So it's just a lot of talking between the league, a lot of discussion going on, trying to figure out what to do with this thing that's been flying through time and space. Meanwhile, we have the whole Luthor, attacking and killing, apparently killing off Vandal Savage. I mean, makes you see the Hall of Doom as well, which it was supposed to be built by Savage himself, but it seems Luthor had taken over it through LexCorp and created some modifications as well. And the sort of so there seems to be some stuff that John found out as he was sort of going through this whole mental thing with the league, and seems to have contacted some mind. I don't know if it's Savage's mind. Kind of get some revelation about this whole what's it called, totality. But the league, by the time John's mind comes back to his body, in a sense, that league is off to attack or confront this totality. It's an interesting start. Like I said, sort of start like in the middle, we get this sort of time and space thing. That just like from DC 1 million to the monitors to Kamandi to the great power, mystical powers of the DCU. Sort of seeing this thing, and then we just get this sort of introduction to the Hall of Justice. We get like these 2 pages, and then we just jump right into the whole action. And yeah, so it's an interesting read. So I'm kind of curious where it goes. But it sort of sets things up, and for a number 1 issue, really, it sort of lacks what I would say would be the premise of the book, or its mission statement of it. We just kind of already see through this whole thing here. It's called action sequences here. The already expanded league, but we don't know how they came to that determination. We don't know why certain things were chosen. We just sort of jump right into it. So I don't know if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I kind of find it odd that for a number 1 issue, we don't really get much of an introduction as a number 1 issue should do, which is sort of introduce the team, or why or teams, why yeah, sort of like, I mean, it's okay. Trying to find the right words to describe this book, because it's very action driven. You do have like talking heads as well. Um, but yeah, I leave it at that because I don't want to waste much more time. So finally, the Man of Steel number two. So before I jump right into this issue, I did tweet, uh, I believe it was last week, that I've been reading a lot of the Golden Age Superman stories, rereading actually from my you know the you know, the Superman Chronicles. So I've been rereading a lot of those. So I've been rereading it again. I've read that collect the 10 volumes of the Chronicles quite frequently because I just love these stories. And one of the things I noticed from just the first issue is that it captures some of that feel of the stories written by Jerry Siegel during the Golden Age, where Clark, as a reporter, investigates certain criminal activity, and then Superman comes along to resolve it. But it really starts with strange crimes or crimes happening or stumbling into some sort of racket, whether it's him by him alone, Clark, or it's Clark and Lewis who stumble into these things and they're gonna investigate. And basically, those early Superman stories were pretty much in the fashion of a detective fiction, just solving crimes and mysteries. Uh, before after where years later now Superman stories really deal with like really big cosmic things, powerful alien beings or really big stuff. But with Man of Steel number one, we have this mystery that was established where there's arson happening, and so this intrigues Superman. So Superman wants believes someone's behind it, so he is going to now investigate this, both as Superman and as Clark Kent. And like I said in my last video, I really like the fact that the main story, ends with Clark in at the Daily Planet, writing about it. So very, like I said, feels very much what you would find in a Golden Age story. So now Man of Steel number two. So we open up with the destruction of Krypton. Big splash page by Doug Shiner, and beautiful, by the way, just spectacular art. And so one of the powers of the galaxy, a creature, a man, a king, who claims Lord Gandalf is his name, is this guy here, who is the ruler of 42 star systems, is confronting one of the Guardians of the Universe. I always forget his name. Appa Ali Apsa. Right, it's a very well-known Guardian. I believe this is the Guardian that showed up. I think it's been referred to as the Guardian that showed up in the old Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Green Arrow stories from the 70s. So, anyways, so Lord, what was his name? Gandalf confronts Apsa Ali Apsa, Ali Apsa, about the destruction of Krypton, because he says, if it's Rogol Zar who did it, I mean, the guy shows up, he claims he wants to cleanse Krypton. Krypton explodes, mysteriously, he asks the Gordon if he knew about it. Uh, he says that all he knows is that Krypton was unstable. That's all he knows. And if Rogolzar had something to do with it, it was a big major breach of trust because it seems that he actually serves or served, Rogolzar served these cosmic powers, as a protector of the universe, the galaxy, whatever, and he does seem quite concerned, after um, you know, Lord Gandalf lives, if it's true that that the artist is great here. That he hopes it wasn't him, but he actually, but he does seem to know that yes, Ragolzar was responsible for the destruction of Krypton. I mean, he's actually questioned by Lord Gandalf. Where was the lantern that protected, Krypton sector? And it does seem to imply that he did know, and he actually says this, and I'm gonna read it. It says, Ragol, sorry, may you have died with your final sin, and that this and all the other ugly secrets disappear with you. Which does imply that there are secrets. There are a lot of secrets. I don't know if all of them involve the destruction of Krypton, or there's more theory stuff going on. As we kind of know, the Guardians have a lot of secrets that they even hide from the Green Lantern Corps. Anyway, so the rest of the issue has three has an deals with other things as well. So the main story sort of starts off at the Daily Planet, where we once again meet Robinson Good, the new city editor, which made her very first appearance in this nation number 0. So we know that she's working for a a mysterious person. She's working for someone else. So she's pretty much not on the up and up, and she seems quite curious to know what happened to Louis Lane. So she's actually, questioning the Leisures and Art editor. What's her name? Trish Q, this girl here. What she knows, that what she's heard about, the disappearance of Louis Lane. So what's her interest in it? Does it have to do with what Louis was investigating at the time of her disappearance? Which we again get the reference here. This in with these two pages by Jason Fabak, which now we see what seems to have taken Louis and John, which is this really sort of weird looking creature, if it's a creature or a ship or something, that actually took Louis and John away. So I guess then Robinson Good is questioning the arts and leisure reporter. She calls it gossip columnist, but she says, no, I'm the arts and leisure reporter, about what happened, or what she's read about Louis Lane. Then we kind of go from there to what Superman is up to, which is he's fighting this giant sort of toy robot created by the Toyman, which is really nice to see the Toyman. You hardly seen some of these other villains by these other classic villains in a long long time. I mean, there's like a little reference here uh, of the Bronze Age Toyman as well. Uh, but the Toyman is like super mad because he is like, I did everything right. I wasn't even in Metropolis, so you come and ruin my fun. And he's Superman, so unlike Batman or other superheroes, Superman sort of is everywhere. He doesn't have like a territory, like Batman will always stick with in Gotham, for example. Superman's like everywhere. So he was doing in another mission when he kind of catches up on what the Toman is up to. Uh, so he was in Coast City creating havoc. And then of course being Coast City, Hal shows up, trying to have a nice friendly chat. He does notice that Superman's a little off. Uh, of course he's concerned about John and Lewis. Yeah. So he sort of avoids it, and again he goes into a bit of a uh, of the of him reflecting that he shouldn't act the way he did towards Hal, but he is Superman, so he's supposed to at least represent uh, certain strength, certain serenity to of sort of hiding his stuff. I mean, his own issues. He's Superman, so he's supposed to you know show certain strength. Certain he's supposed to be very positive, very focused. So so he sort of closes himself up as Superman, where T. Clark, you know, he sort of closes up. I think something like that. That's what I got out of it. Uh, then we got to like this section done by the great Steve Rude, which is where we find out Ragol Zar is still around, and we find out that he learns that there is another Kryptonian that he thought uh, Krypton had been destroyed, but he learned that there is a survivor. So he's like in the far end of the in the Vega system, in some sort of you know bar, something like that, and he actually learns about the existence of Superman. Uh, um, and so he decides to head towards Earth. Right in the end, we actually see him here. As he flies here, right here, as fast towards Earth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Superman encounters another case of arson. Um, so again, Superman tries to to save the people as fast as he can. He's definitely concerned about it. He goes back to the Daily Planet with his story, but it's all over the news already. And we see a very, very concerned Perry White. Because TV, cable news, the internet is really killing his livelihood. The newspaper. I mean, we see this really great sequence here where we see a very young Periel, as a young reporter, just doing his job. But then, things are not as as good as they used to be. And again, Trish shows up and says that they should really, sort of check on the story of what happened to Lewis, which Perry finds to be in bad taste and not a real story, somewhat inappropriate. At the same time, we actually find that, the Joker seems to be around in causing trouble. So Superman, Clark just finds about it, and he disappears and takes care of it. Um, and then we end with Rebel Czar showing up at the end as he heads towards Earth. Uh, really great issue. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. So yeah, I mean, there's been quite a few discussions about, especially going on with Destination as a great way to promote the DC stuff. But yeah, I mean, we get the Bendis and Snyder interview, uh, where we're actually learning that yeah, Man of Steel, unlike the original one by John Byrne, which was basically just the retelling of the origin of Superman for the post-crisis era. This sort of is just set up for Bendis' run. So, will this issue in particular, will this six issue mini, uh, have a basic ending, or will it leave things open that will be explored both in action and in Superman? Uh, Hard to say as of now, but yeah, it does seem that um, what we'll be getting though will be set up for action, Superman, and Supergirl as well. As everything that's been set up here will be fully explored. Um, is there a point for just starting with a weekly 6 issue series that will not have a definite conclusion? Well, it seems it's not going to have a definite conclusion, as as what we're being teased in the here in Destination, um, right? We've been teased here with what's coming up with Man of Steel, that it, especially in this like little inset here, that sort of explains to us, that just set up that the story will develop over time over the three main Superman books, or the three Superman family books, Action Superman, Supergirl. Uh, will this like be a year long story? Will this go on for several years? I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait how to the end of the Man of Steel mini series, uh, to see if there's some sort of definite conclusion for this alone. Uh, but with enough threads, obviously, to branch out over the books. But I kind of enjoyed that sort of conversation I had yesterday over Twitter with Sleepy Reader, some other people, talking about Man of Steel, Bendis' Superman, um, and this is what I think I wanna really focus on is I'd love to have Sleepy Reader. Actually, he kind of suggested it in one of my first live streams that we should get, do a hangout and talk about Superman. I would love to have that because I think there's a lot to talk about Superman, Man of Steel specifically, Bendis as well, where we think his stories are going. I think there is a lot of conversation around that. People that don't like Bendis or or have concerns. I think it'd be great if I could get some people to talk about all of this because this is the most I've heard people talking about Superman in a while. Uh, um, and yeah, because there's things that Bendis is doing that seem new but aren't really new. Uh, of course, I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it like in my last video, talking about the destruction of Krypton. That wasn't new. I reaffirmed it during the conversation that wasn't necessarily new. Uh, 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 but yeah, I would definitely love to have people have a hangout. Spend maybe an hour talking about all of this because I really enjoyed that conversation over on Twitter. But it'd be nice if we could sort of expand it. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know down in the comments. I always read the comments. Not always do I have time to answer them because I hardly use my laptop these days. I use more of my iPad. So answering uh, um, comments in the app actually just takes me to the video. So I really don't wanna get into the video just to answer comments. I'll probably try to answer them late, or maybe I'll answer them in the video itself in the next video if I find some nice comments, even some controversial ones as well. I've been doing this for 5 years, so I usually try to. I don't get a lot of comments. I don't get a lot of views. I have a lot of subscribers. I just enjoy doing the videos, and those little comments that I do get are very very appreciated. So tell me what you think. Who wants to join into and who wants to join me doing a hangout and talking about Superman and Bendis' take on Superman? Come on, Sleepy. We have to find it. We talked about it on that on my like I said, my live stream. But we never really gotten into when we can do it, and if more people want to join, uh, it'd be great. So yeah, that's the big thing I wanted to talk about, and just a quick, I was talking Destination, which I find like a great way to promote DC books. Uh, but it also involves going into like the creative process, interviews with the creators. You get the DC's classic direct currents, which goes back to the the back to the Silver Age. The direct currents, which was DC's checklist of upcoming books that showed up, in the 60s. Uh, Definitely get to look a lot of the art. For example, we got this by Brian Hitch. With the art for Hawkman, which comes out next week. Really cool way for DC to communicate with the fans and promote their books in the best way possible. So I did go a little long on this video. That usually happens when I have to talk about a lot of things. So tell me what you think. Leave your comments below. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'll put on my Twitter handle in the description as well. So you wanna continue the conversation, whether it's here in the comments, on Twitter, and who wants to join me in a hangout talking about what I just said, let me know. So I will end this as I always do. Until next time, keep smiling.